welcome back to the Nerdy Grail. And yes, if you have seen that brief little intro, it's finally arrived. It's finally time for the next MCU movie to drop and to do a review on it. Yes, in this video, I am going to be doing a review on Captain America Brave New World, which dropped on Friday, the 14th of February, on Valentine's Day, the day of love. So, me and my fiance, obviously, we spend the evening getting to watch the new Captain America movie, which, yeah, if you have a little look behind me, I've got the rest of the Captain America movies. I've also got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but also I've got both Eternals and the Incredible Hulk. Because, yeah, they actually bring back stuff from the Eternals. They remembered that the Eternals existed. They remember that there's a giant celestial being in the middle of the ocean. Oh my goodness, Phase 4 didn't do that, so finally. But also, this film is sort of kind of a sequel to The Incredible Hulk. It's almost as much as a Hulk movie as it is a Captain America movie, because there's lots of references to The Incredible Hulk. You've obviously got General Ross, who's now the president. You've got the return of Liv Tyler, who plays Betty Ross. You've got the return of Tim Blake Nelson, who plays Samuel Stearns, or the leader, but he hasn't actually been name dropped as that yet, but he does return. You know, you've got a lot of returning things. You've also got, obviously, Ross turning into Red Hulk in this movie as well. There's just so many little references to The Incredible Hulk. It's hard to not see it as a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, even though this is supposed to be Captain America 4. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break down this a little bit. Just going to give you my brief thoughts, the positives, the negatives, and like a rough idea of the plot, because overall I didn't mind this movie. I thought, if I'm being honest, it wasn't too bad of a movie. Was it the best movie that the MCU have ever produced? Definitely not. I still think we're in that rough patch of the MCU at the moment where they're a bit hit or miss. You got to keep in mind the last MCU movie that came out was Deadpool and Wolverine from last year, which, if you've seen my video on ranking all the movies of 2024, you know that's my favourite movie of that year. And if you've seen my list of ranking every Marvel movie up to that point, Deadpool and Wolverine came second in that list. So I highly, highly recommend that movie. And it's something that I see as top. But then going to Captain America Brave New World, I've never been a massive fan of Captain America. But that doesn't mean I hate Captain America. You know, when Chris Evans was Captain America, I thought he did a brilliant job, really. And now we've got Anthony Mackie, who is Sam Wilson, who is also the new Captain America. And to be fair, he does a pretty good job in this movie as well. So, enough of me rambling. Let me just briefly break this down for you. Let me just start with the positives and the negatives of this movie. I will say one of the positives of this movie is that the pacing is pretty good, to be fair. There was never a moment where I was watch checking. I was never checking the time, which has happened in the past to Marvel movies. But no, I was engaged from start to finish. So I think they did really well with the pacing. I would say visually this film did look really, really good. And the fact that now Sam is Captain America and he has the wings as well, it means you get to see a more of an aerial view as opposed to just running and punching people on the ground. Unfortunately, Steve Rogers didn't have the luxury of that Sam Wilson has. But also then Sam Wilson doesn't have the luxury of having the super soldier serum. So the swings and roundabouts there. So I think visually this film looked good. Obviously, the big elephant in the room in terms of visuals, which lots of people were concerned about, is the fact that Thaddeus Ross becomes Red Hulk towards the end of this movie. And how does he look? I would say he doesn't look too bad, to be fair. He does look pretty good. Obviously, it's heavy with all the CGI and everything, but I would say overall, in fairness to them, it doesn't look horrendous. It looks decent. You know, Red Hulk does look cool in this movie. So visually, I think this film is nice. And you get to see lots of different locations as well. I think the shots where you get to see the celestial being in the ocean is brilliant as well. Look really, really beautiful. That sea battle was brilliant. And then obviously, like I said, Red Hulk, getting to go back to the raft. I think, yeah, visually it's really, really good. Really, really nice. And there's lots of different locations in this as well. And also the effects on Tim Blake Nelson's, the leader, Samuel Stearns, does look pretty good as well. So I'd say, yeah, visually it's good. And I would also say like some of the characterizations of people in this film was also done pretty well. Some characters were a bit left out and I was a bit unsure about. But I'll talk about that in my negatives. But some of the big positives for the characters, I would say actually Thaddeus Ross was done really, really well. Now, obviously, Harrison Ford had a bit of a tough job because he had to take over the role after the previous actor had sadly passed away. And I think he does a pretty decent job. I was actually surprised how much we saw of Ross in this because I don't know why, but in the back of my mind, I thought that maybe we would see him only a little bit and then he'd be more Red Hulk in this film. I don't really know why I thought that initially. But no, we see a lot of General Ross and actually not much of Red Hulk. But he does a really, really good job in making Thaddeus a little bit more of a sympathetic character for you. Like he's still that manipulative. He's still that I think of myself first kind of character. But there's elements to him where he's starting to realize that people have moved and separated from him because of the way that he used to act. Like his daughter Betty, he spends this entire movie hoping and praying that he'll be able to see Betty again, and he misses Betty because Betty doesn't like what he's become. So it's all about him trying to realize that he needs to change, and he's going to do his best to try and change. So I think that is really, really sweet. So I do like Ross in this movie. I think he is pretty cool. And it is quite funny how he does get... It all comes full circle because at the start of the MCU and like the Incredible Hulk, he is chasing after Bruce because he's an abomination. He's dangerous. He wants to use him as a weapon potentially. And he doesn't like that variable that you can't control out there. And then he himself in this movie becomes that thing that he hates most. And when he transforms into Red Hulk, you see that because he looks at himself in the White House windows, sees himself as Red Hulk, and then bursts out screaming. And internally that's him going like, oh my god, I've become the thing that I hate most. And I think that is really, really good. Another character that I thought was really good, obviously Anthony Mackie does a brilliant job as Sam Wilson. He's got a lot of charm. I loved him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've loved him in every film that he's been in. He did a really, really good job in this movie, trying to take the lead of Captain America. So he did a great job. He's funny, he's quirky. You can tell when he's serious. You know not to mess with him. So I think he does a really good job. I think the new Falcon, his little apprentice, Joaquin Torres, I think the name of the character is, played by Danny Ramirez. He's really funny. My fiance loved that character. She kept turning to me and saying, I love this guy. He's brilliant. And he is. She said he reminds him of like a Tom Holland in terms of youth and in terms of just the way he acts. It is quite funny. He is a good character. He's sort of your comic relief for the film. So it is quite cool. So I did like him as a character. Obviously, seeing Tim Blake Nelson come back as Samuel Stearns was great. When they announced he was coming back, I thought that was a really nice touch. Letting the Incredible Hulk not sit in the dust. I thought that was good. Getting to see other characters back, like Liv Tyler. It was good to see her back as Betty, but I am going to talk a little bit about a negative of that. But it was great to see her again. Sebastian Stan makes a cameo as Bucky Barnes, although Bucky is now into politics, which I think is quite strange. I don't really know why they are going in that direction, but we'll see where it goes from here, because obviously the next movie is the Thunderbolts, and obviously Bucky is going to be heavy in that, so we'll see how that continues. But we've also got other characters. We've got Giancarlo Esposito, who is playing a character called, I need to write it down, Sidewinder. He was an interesting character, but they really bigged him up in the trailers, and yet he was definitely forgotten at times in this movie. I forgot that he was in this movie at times, so that was a bit unfortunate. But yeah, there was some really, really good characters. We got Carl Lumbly, who plays a character called Isaiah Bradley. Really good character as well. I loved his character as like an old Cap, an old super soldier. He is really cool. He was a bit of comic relief as well, but you're really meant to feel sympathetic to him because it's all about a conspiracy that's going on. And that's what this film's about, is conspiracies. Just a couple of negatives about the film, though, I will say, is I think, like I said, in returning characters like Liv Tyler, as Betty Ross, there was parts of the plot where I feel like you could have integrated it in and it would have made a bit more sense to the plot of the movie. Like when Thaddeus Ross has hulked out and he is going on a rampage, he needs to calm down. They take him to a place where him and Betty used to go all the time, a place where he'd love to return. And Sam tries to calm him down, but that does not work. I feel like that would have been the perfect time to have called Betty in, but they didn't do that. Instead, Betty only comes in when Thaddeus has already transformed back. He's locked up in the raft, and she's just come as like a visitor to see him. Which, it's nice that they got that, but that's the only time we saw her in the movie. I also feel like there was a couple of decisions in this movie that were a bit weird and also made a couple of these things irrelevant again. Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's a scene where, unfortunately, due to complications, Joaquin got injured during one of the battles, and Sam feels guilty about that. And and then Bucky comes to visit him in the hospital, and he starts to question whether or not Steve did the right thing in making him the new Captain America. And I just think, like, why are we going back down this route again? That was the whole point of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, really. Him basically discovering that he is the right person for the job and he deserves to be Captain America. Why are we doing this again? Why are we doing this whole song and dance again? Doesn't need to happen. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. Also, the fact that obviously in the trailers, they really built up not the Incredible Hulk. They built up Red Hulk a lot, and yes, he was a core part of the film, but he was only actually on screen for probably about 4 or 5 minutes, which was a shame because I know a lot of people were probably going to watch this to see Red Hulk, and if you're doing that, when he's on screen, he's great, but it's not very much. But yeah, so that's just a kind of a few nitpicks of mine of the film, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen going forward. But yeah, so like I said, this film is just all about conspiracies, really, and it's built up over the course of the film. So one conspiracy is who coordinated attack on General Ross. They think it's the old super soldier Isaiah Bradley. They try to pin the blame on him and a couple of other assassins. And it comes at a bad time because Ross, being the new president, he's coming up to his 100 days. He feels like he needs to sign this treaty because of the new celestial being that's, been discovered in the ocean. There's lots of materials, like adamantium has been introduced in this film. So the X-Men are coming, people. The X-Men are coming. And so everyone wants to use that source for power. So he's trying to do a treaty where it can all be shared out and there won't be a big war that will go on, just trying to unite the people. But that goes wrong due to the potential assassination of Ross. So they try to pin the blame on Isaiah Bradley, but actually there's something going on in the background, which we find out is actually Tim Blake's, that Samuel Stearns has been pulling the strings. We find out that Ross in this movie has been going to him for help because his heart has been failing him. So Samuel's been giving him these pills to take in order to keep him alive, but actually he's been poisoning him with gamma radiation. And so over the course of the film, Ross is starting to lose his temper. He's starting to act differently. It's basically he's been slowly turning him into Red Hulk as a way of getting revenge on Ross for everything that he did to him in Incredible Hulk. He captured him at the end of Incredible Hulk and practically imprisoned him and tortured him, promised him his freedom, but never gave it to him. So yeah, they, again, trying to paint Ross as this really nasty character, but he does have a sympathetic side to him through Betty. But like I said, it is a decent movie. I did enjoy watching Captain America Brave New World. Good start to this year. Not the best start, but not a bad start to the MCU films of this year. We do have 2 more to come out, so I will be interested to see what they're like. But yeah, overall, Captain America Brave New World, is it worth checking out? I think, yeah, check it out. You could watch it as a standalone film. You don't need to watch the other Captain Americas, really. I mean, you can. I'd say if out of all of these things behind me to watch for this film, if you were to watch anything, I mean, The Incredible Hulk is probably the thing the most. I know, strange. To watch this Captain America film, I'm suggesting you watch The Incredible Hulk. And that's kind of a little bit of another negative is, did this need to be a Captain America movie? Could this have just been Brave New World or something, and you just make it a Hulk and a Captain America movie? Because that's essentially what this is. A bit like in Civil War, how is it really a Captain America movie or is it an Avengers movie? Because you've also got Iron Man, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Vision, Scarlet Witch, you know, it is a bit strange. But that is going to be my review on Captain America Brave New World. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. And subscribe if you are new. But for now, this is the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you've had an amazing day. And I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.